Somewhere in the software that runs the world, a single flaw sat untouched for 27 years. Another hid in a media library so well that around 5 million automated tests swept past it every time. Nobody found these cracks, until an AI did. In April of 2026, Anthropic announced Project Glasswing, and the reason it made headlines is strange. They built a model good enough at finding and breaking into software that they decided it was too dangerous to sell. So instead of shipping it, they handed it to defenders first. But Glasswing is just the example. The real subject is a permanent idea. The exact same skill that lets an AI find a hole to seal, it also lets it find a hole to break in. So let us see what this program is, how the AI actually hunts a flaw, and why the honest story is far messier than the headline. First, what Glasswing actually is. It is not an app you download, not a subscription, not an API tier. It is a defensive security program. Anthropic describes the goal as securing the world's most critical software for the AI era. The mechanism is simple. They give vetted defenders at systemically important organizations early access to an unreleased frontier model, so those defenders can find and fix flaws in their own code before attackers wielding equally capable AI get there first. Think of it not as a product on a shelf, but as a guarded vault door that a small, screened set of defenders are escorted through. The program is really three things bundled together: early access to a powerful model, a large pool of money, and a careful process for disclosing the flaws it finds. Now the model. It is called Claude Mythos Preview, and one detail matters more than any benchmark. Its hacking ability was not built on purpose. Nobody trained a hacker model. Mythos Preview is a general-purpose frontier model, extremely good at coding and reasoning, and its talent for finding vulnerabilities simply falls out of that. There is no separate hacker module bolted on. This is the timeless lesson hiding in the product. Cyber capability rides along with general capability. You cannot get the upside, an AI that writes brilliant code, without the danger, an AI that can break code. They are the same skill. Keep one naming point straight. Mythos Preview is the raw model used inside Glasswing. Fable 5 is the guarded public model. Glasswing is the program. Three separate boxes, and we return to that map at the end. Here is the defining move. Anthropic says Mythos Preview can surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software flaws. And because the safeguards to stop misuse are still underdeveloped, they say they do not plan to make it generally available. So the raw edge goes to defenders through Glasswing, while the public waits for a guarded version. Rationing the raw capability is the headline. Now, hold that superlative loosely. The claim that it beats almost all humans is exactly the part independent experts dispute, and we will get to that. But the decision is real, and the decision is what is new. Picture a freshly forged blade stamped "Do Not Sell," handed not to the open market but to a small, screened guild of defenders. Who gets the dangerous tool first? That is the whole experiment. What has it done? These numbers are Anthropic's own, so treat them as vendor-reported, not independently audited. Anthropic reports Mythos Preview found thousands of high-severity flaws across every major operating system and every major web browser. Some had hidden for decades. That 27-year-old crash bug in OpenBSD. A 16-year-old bug in the FFmpeg media library that millions of automated runs never caught. A privilege escalation chain in the Linux kernel. And a 17-year-old remote code execution flaw in FreeBSD. As for the people, the launch group in April was about 50 organizations, with around a dozen named publicly, including Amazon Web Services, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and the Linux Foundation, plus over 40 more. By early June, Anthropic said roughly 150 organizations across more than 15 countries had joined, now reaching power, water, and healthcare. Those counts keep rising, so treat them as a snapshot. The money is large too. Up to $100 million in usage credits for partners, plus $4 million in donations to open-source security. So why does this matter? 3 reasons. The first is the spine of the whole video in Anthropic's own words. The same capabilities that make these models dangerous in the wrong hands make them invaluable for finding and fixing flaws. Picture one beam of light. Tilt it one way and it is a shield sealing a crack. Tilt it the other and it is a sword prying that same crack open. One beam, 2 handles. That is dual use and it outlives every number here. Second is timing. Because the skill is symmetric, the whole bet is a head start, getting defenders moving before attackers with equal AI arrive, so critical software is patched first. Third, the stakes are global. Operating systems, browsers, and the software under power grids, hospitals, and banks underpin billions of people on every continent. One crack and billions are exposed. There is also a precise word for the danger: uplift. How much a tool raises a less skilled person above what a textbook or a search engine could give them. Writing a working attack once took rare, elite skill. A dual-use AI that does it on command lowers that skill floor, lifting attackers who could never have done it before. Now the heart of it. How does an AI actually find a flaw? The surprising part is how little scaffolding it takes. In Anthropic's own description, they launch a container, a sealed box cut off from the internet that runs the target program and its source code. Then they invoke Claude code running Mythos Preview and prompt it with roughly 1 paragraph that amounts to, "Please find a security vulnerability in this program." That is it. The intelligence is in the model, not in some elaborate tool. From there, the agent runs a loop on its own, the same plan, act, observe, reflect cycle behind every agentic system. It forms a hypothesis about where a bug might be. It acts by using a tool. It observes the real result. Then it reflects and tries again. Let us walk the steps it takes inside that box. Step 1 is reading the code. This is called static analysis. The model ingests the source and reasons about where untrusted input flows into dangerous operations, like memory handling, parsing, or login checks. Anthropic has it rank every file from 1 to 5 by how likely it is to hold an interesting bug. A 1 has nothing exploitable. A 5 might take raw data straight off the internet and parse it, or handle who is allowed in. Then it works the riskiest files first. Step 2 is probing the running program. This is dynamic analysis, and its classic form is fuzzing, throwing crafted or random inputs at the program to see what makes it crash or behave strangely. The model runs the target, feeds it inputs, watches for memory corruption, and drops in its own debugging instruments to confirm a real flaw versus a false alarm. Step 3 is the deep one, where this jumps past older tools. Finding a crash is not an attack. Turning that crash into actual control is called exploit synthesis. And historically, this is the hard part that separated elite humans from everyone else. The model has to write a proof of concept, a working demonstration that the flaw can be weaponized. Listen to the craft in one example Anthropic describes on FreeBSD. On its own, the model noticed that a safety check, a stack canary, was not applied on one code path. It then assembled a chain of small code fragments, called a ROP gadget chain, to hijack the program's control flow. And because the delivery channel only allowed 200 bytes at a time, it split that chain across 6 sequential network packets to fit. That is not luck. That is engineering. In the write-up, engineers with no security training asked it to find a remote code execution flaw overnight and woke to a complete working exploit, with no human in the discovery or the exploitation after the first request. Real attacks are not one clever move. They are many small wins chained into a path. By the UK AI Security Institute's account, Mythos Preview was the first model to fully solve a 32-step simulated corporate network attack, completing it in 3 of 10 attempts. In the write-up, it chained 3 separate Linux kernel bugs into full control. Then comes a clean teaching moment. AI checking AI. A second Mythos agent rereads each finding and is asked, in effect, is this real and interesting? It filters out trivia before any human looks. Finally, in Glasswing, the loop ends defensively. Humans and independent security firms reproduce and re-rate each finding. Then it goes through coordinated disclosure. The flaw is told to the maintainer privately, with around 90 days to patch before details go public, never posted in the open. Offense-shaped skill, defense-shaped ending. And it does not just break. The same beam that finds a crack can lay a patch over it. Partners use the model to write fixes and to run pre-release checks that stop flaws from ever shipping. One concrete success, a flaw in the Wolf SSL cryptography library, found and fixed, now tracked under a public advisory. But here is a myth worth puncturing now. You do not just point a raw agent at a codebase and watch it work. Cloudflare, a launch partner, shared a first-hand account. A generic coding agent was not enough. They built an elaborate 7-stage pipeline around the model, with stages for reconnaissance, hunting with many parallel agents, adversarial validation, deduplication, and reporting. Why so much scaffolding? Because the raw output is noisy. Cloudflare says the speculative findings vastly outnumber the reliable ones, arriving hedged with maybe and possibly. And one detail every engineer should hear: older C and C++ code produced far more false alarms than memory-safe Rust. So the validation gate is not polish. It is load-bearing. Now the deepest tension hiding under the tidy dual-use picture. Even if the skill is perfectly symmetric, the outcome is not. The security researcher Bruce Schneier puts it plainly. It does seem that finding and exploiting is easier than finding and fixing. Think about why. An attacker needs just one working hole. A defender has to find and seal all of them. And worse, finding a bug does nothing for safety on its own. A patch protects no one until every operator in the world actually deploys it, and many systems are old, unattended, or simply never get patched. So a single shared capability still tilts toward offense in the short run. The defender's advantage is a long game, not an instant win. This is why a head start was the bet, and why a head start alone does not settle the race. So how special is this model really? This is the most important honesty beat. It is not uniquely capable. Schneier flatly rejects the common wisdom that Mythos is simply better at this than other models, calling that just not true. The UK AI Security Institute reportedly found an already public model from OpenAI comparable in capability, and one security firm reproduced Anthropic's published results using smaller, cheaper models. So do not picture a lone superhuman. Where it does measure ahead is against Anthropic's own prior model, on lab benchmarks, scoring far higher on vulnerability reproduction tests, and producing many more working exploits. But here is the crucial caveat from the testers themselves. Those test ranges lack the active defenders and alarms a real system has, with no penalty for actions that would trip a security alert. So a controlled lab against weakly defended targets is not the open world. The score was earned in a tidy maze, not against a real fortress, and no test has shown it beating a well-defended system in the wild. Now the sharpest criticism of all, and it punctures the easy victory story. Found does not mean fixed. From Anthropic's open-source scan, around 530 high or critical bugs were disclosed to maintainers, but only about 75 were actually patched. Out of roughly 23,000 raw findings, well under 1% had been remediated. Schneier's reaction is blunt. It found a lot of flaws, but almost none have been patched, and he calls that weird. One analyst put it sharply: the bottleneck has moved from finding vulnerabilities to absorbing patches. There is a fair caveat. Many findings sit inside that 90-day disclosure window, so the patch count rises over time. But the gap is real and large. Do not believe the world got safer just because an AI found a lot of bugs. Finding is the fast, cheap half. Patching and deploying everywhere is the slow, human half, and that half has barely begun. False alarms are real too. Anthropic's own true positive rate is about 90.6%, so roughly 1 in 10 reported findings was not valid, and that figure is only from the subset a human rechecked. So can you use any of this? Not Glasswing itself. There is no sign-up. The raw Mythos model goes only to vetted partners, and that gating is the entire design, not a limitation to root around. But there are two on-ramps for everyone else. The first is a product called Claude Security, built on Anthropic's public models rather than the raw edge. It scans code bases and suggests patches, the same defensive workflow with a guarded engine behind it. The second is something Anthropic has been building called a cyber verification program, so security professionals doing legitimate work, like vulnerability research, can earn verified access to Mythos-class capability without some of the usual safeguards. Both may have shifted since, so check the current state. 3 more honest limits. Cost is real and unstated. One exploit run came in under $50. A larger batch ran to around 10,000, and the 100 million in credits exists precisely because running this over giant code bases burns a lot of tokens. Next, the raw model's safety behavior is not dependable. Cloudflare found that the same task, framed a little differently, could produce completely different outcomes, and that the model's refusals were not reliable enough to serve as safety boundaries on their own. That leakiness is part of why the raw model is gated, not sold. And finally, transparency. Anthropic will not release Mythos or full finding details for safety, so its biggest claims rest on its own word. Schneier calls that trust us posture a real problem, and the rollout a fantastic public relations move. So treat every capability number here as vendor reported, not settled fact. Let us clear the air with a quick myth check because the headlines got several things wrong. Myth 1, Glasswing is a new Claude app you can use. No, it is an access program for vetted defenders, and the public on-ramp is the separate Claude Security product. Myth 2, it is a purpose-built hacking AI. No, it is a general model, and the cyber skill is an emergent byproduct. Myth 3, Anthropic released a model that hacks things. The opposite, they withheld it because it is that capable, and that withholding is the whole story. Myth 4, Mythos is uniquely superhuman. Disputed, comparable public and cheaper models reproduce the feats. Myth 5, it found 10,000 bugs, so the world is safer now. No, found is not fixed, and under 1% were patched. And one more, the outdated belief that AI cannot really hack or write working exploits. That was once a fair thing to say. It is no longer. Early models genuinely stumbled here, but this model built full autonomous attack chains. So frame the old cannot as history, not as how things stand today. So step back. Get the 3 boxes straight one last time. Mythos is the raw, ungated model. Fable 5 is that model plus safety filters, the version the public gets. Glasswing is the program that hands the raw model to vetted defenders so they can find flaws first. The deeper precedent is this. Anthropic separated how good the model is from who gets the raw version. Defenders get the edge, the public gets the guarded copy. That split is a reusable stencil for any dangerously dual-use capability, and other labs and regulators may copy it. Now the honest scoreboard neither triumph nor doom. A powerful capability appeared. It is symmetric between attack and defense. Defenders were given a head start, real money, and a disclosure process. But found is not fixed. False alarms exist. Comparable models are already public, and deploying patches everywhere is the slow human half that has barely started. The terrain is safer but not solved. The specific numbers here will be stale within months. The idea will not. When a capability cuts both ways, the only questions that last are these. Who do you give it to first, and how fast can the defenders actually move? Glasswing is one concrete answer. The question is forever.